Imagine a sunny morning in a small town when an officer gets a strange call. Something small and unexpected is causing trouble on the road. As she gets closer to the scene, the mystery grows. What could be causing this unusual disruption? One sunny morning in a small town, Officer Sabrina got a call that caught her by surprise. There was a tiny owl sitting in the middle of the road, causing quite a stir among drivers. Intrigued, Sabrina jumped into her patrol car and headed to the scene. As she got closer, she noticed several cars lined up, and the drivers were all staring, some confused and others amused. When she arrived, Sabrina saw that the cars had awkwardly tried to swerve around the little bird. The owl was small, with its feathers a bit messy, but it wasn't scared. People had even tried gently shooing it away, but the owl stood its ground, refusing to budge. Sabrina, being a trained officer, knew it was her job to keep the road clear and traffic moving. But first, she had to move the stubborn owl. As she carefully approached, asking the crowd to step back, something unexpected happened. The little owl didn't fly off in fear. Instead, it hopped toward her, softly hooting as if trying to communicate. Sabrina crouched down, carefully extending her hand toward the tiny owl. She began to guide it gently to the side of the road, hoping to place it on a nearby branch. As they neared the branch, she felt a sense of relief, thinking the situation was under control. But just as she attempted to place the owl on the branch, the unexpected happened. The little owl took flight, only to land right back in the middle of the road. Sabrina was stunned. Why would it return? What could this mean? She wasn't someone who understood animals deeply, but she knew this was unusual. As she glanced around, traffic had turned into a mess. More cars were arriving, and the two-way street had become a single lane because of the owl. Despite its small size, the bird had somehow managed to stop the flow of traffic completely. One of the onlookers, a local trucker named Rian, noticed her struggle and decided to help. Seeing her efforts, he jumped in, and together, they started directing traffic through a nearby alley. With traffic finally moving again, Sabrina could now focus on figuring out what was going on with this owl. She knelt beside the bird again, trying her best not to startle it. The owl didn't seem hurt. Its feathers looked clean, and it appeared alert and calm. But Sabrina had a feeling something wasn't quite right. Slowly, she reached out to the owl, her hand steady. But just as she got close, the bird pecked her glove. Even through the glove, she could feel the sharpness of its tiny beak. Gasping in surprise, Sabrina noticed a thin metal cord attached to one of the owl's tiny claws. Hanging from the cord was something that looked like a coin or pendant, with a deep blue gemstone that shimmered in the sunlight. She stood up slowly, her mind racing. Grabbing her phone, she quickly dialed her friend Dr. Michael, a wildlife expert who specialized in birds of prey and worked at the local zoo. When Dr. Michael answered, he sounded puzzled, asking if she was okay. Sabrina, still trying to wrap her head around the strange situation, explained what was happening. She described the little owl sitting in the road, the metal cord tied to its leg, and the strange object it was holding. She also mentioned how it had pecked at her glove when she got close. Intrigued by the story, Michael agreed to come and check it out. Within minutes, a dusty SUV pulled up. Michael stepped out, immediately surveying the scene. His eyes quickly landed on the owl, still sitting in the same spot, calm but unbothered by their presence. His brow furrowed as he took in the situation. When he gently reached out to touch the owl, it didn't flinch. Instead, it fluffed its feathers and, just like before, tried to peck him when he touched the claw holding the mysterious item. Sabrina couldn't understand why the owl had been so calm with her earlier, yet now resisted Michael's touch. Attached to its leg was a pendant that seemed out of place, and Sabrina couldn't shake the feeling that it meant something important. How had a tiny owl come across such a strange item? She was curious, and it only added to the mystery. Dr. Michael, intrigued by the situation, suggested they approach the owl carefully. He reminded Sabrina that these creatures were sensitive and needed trust. Slowly, they moved closer to the owl, keeping their motions gentle and calm. The owl's talons gripped the pendant tightly, its eyes watching them both closely. Sabrina remembered how it had trusted her earlier, so she extended her gloved hand again. To her surprise, the owl hopped back onto her finger, still holding the pendant tightly. As they got a better look at the pendant, its metallic surface revealed detailed designs and markings. Dr. Michael's eyes widened. He recognized it immediately. It was a trail marker pendant, something hikers used to mark their journeys. How this owl ended up with one was a mystery they still needed to solve. Sabrina's mind raced. The local hiking community was small and close-knit, and pendants like this one were rarely lost. Then it hit her. Ramiz, the missing hiker, and this baby owl were somehow connected. There had to be a deeper story here. This pendant wasn't just a lost item. It was the first clue to something bigger. As they searched for more clues, they found a photo of Ramiz, proudly holding up a pendant identical to the one the owl had. It wasn't a coincidence. Sabrina wondered if this little owl had crossed paths with Ramiz. Could the bird be the key to solving his disappearance? Dr. Michael, thinking deeply, agreed that nature often worked in mysterious ways. Meeting Ramiz's family only made their mission feel more urgent. Sabrina, Dr. Michael, and the owl set out along the path Ramiz might have taken. The bird confidently perched on Sabrina's shoulder, almost like it knew the way. As they moved forward, they quickly realized they weren't just following a map. They were following the owl's instincts. The owl became their guide. It would flap its wings, hoot, or turn its head at certain spots, like a living compass pointing them in the right direction. At each turn, the owl spotted subtle signs, broken branches, a boot mark in the dirt. These clues made it clear that Ramiz had been there. Sabrina felt hope building. Maybe, just maybe, they were getting closer to finding him. With every hint they discovered, they felt closer to solving the mystery of Ramiz's disappearance. The bond between Sabrina and the owl grew stronger as the bird instinctively led her deeper into the woods. As the sun began to set and shadows stretched out, they arrived at an ancient oak tree. Its sprawling roots created little caves in the ground. Suddenly, the usually calm owl became restless, its hoots louder and more urgent. Beneath the oak's roots, they found something unusual: a piece of dirty, torn fabric sticking out of the dirt. A chill ran down Sabrina's spine as they started digging. They uncovered more cloth, then a bag, and finally caught sight of the pendant Ramiz had worn in the photo. They realized they had found where he had been, but his body was gone. Instead, they discovered signs of a quickly abandoned campsite and large claw marks in the soil, suggesting that something dangerous had attacked him. Dr. Michael whispered about what their discovery could mean. Standing in that quiet place, the owl on Sabrina's shoulder, their emotions swung between hope and despair. They had answers, but new questions were now forming. The journey back to town felt heavy. The owl stayed quiet, as if it understood the sadness of their discovery. When they finally left the trees behind, the weight of what they found pressed on their hearts. Going back to Ramiz's family was a mix of happiness and sadness. They had found clues about him, but he was still missing, leaving many questions. Ramiz's family thanked Sabrina and Dr. Mitchell many times, their gratitude mixed with sorrow. As the sun began to set, Sabrina realized that this adventure was not just about saving a little owl. It was also about uncovering a deep connection between nature and people. So that's all for today. What are your thoughts about this story? Tell us in the comment section below. And if you like this, make sure to like and subscribe. Your support means so much to us. Until then, take care and thanks for watching.